Welcome to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business, right to the heart. We explore the real joy and the stories behind success. Not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that paved the way for them. Hiya, I'm Diane, and around here we know that joy isn't just about the good times. Often the greatest joy comes right after the greatest challenge. And today's episode is a beautiful reminder of exactly that. I'm joined by Jo Rose, a mentor, speaker, and guide whose work focuses on helping women come home to themselves. Her journey is one of deep personal transformation. And in this conversation, Jo opens up about what it really takes to shift your mindset, trust your essence, and stay grounded in the choices that actually serve you. We talk about self-doubt, daily rituals, navigating the noise of life and business, and that powerful combination of curiosity and connection that Jo truly believes is at the centre of all meaningful change. This one is tender, honest, and full of gentle wisdom. So whether we're walking, journaling, or just pausing for a moment of stillness, settle in and enjoy this nourishing conversation with Jo Rose. Hi Jo, and welcome to the Joy Work Show. I am really delighted to welcome you here today. We have actually been trying to organise this for quite some time, and our diaries never quite fit until today. So I am delighted that you are here, and I can't wait to hear your story, because I am going to be hearing your story at the exact same time as the audience, which is always a little bit extra special to me. So Jo, tell me who you are, what you do, and how you got here.
Well, thank you for having me here. Yes, and it's good that we're here. We've got to it, Diane. I'm Jo Rose, and I work mostly with women, empowering them to navigate life's challenges, of which there can be many, and also to make the changes that they perhaps know they need to make in their life. Maybe they've been ignoring them. I've done that too, as you'll hear in a wee bit of story that I'll share. But I do that through, I suppose, creating greater awareness of ourselves and that connection to self, which is huge, because we live responding to all of these things outside of ourselves, and actually the journey is within. So we do mindset mastery, emotional resilience, and aligned strategy for navigating that change. And those things, again, I'll share a bit more, are three areas that are really, really important to me in my own journey as well.
So what brought you to this type of work? What was it that you went through that brought you to first starting your business, and specifically this helping women with their mindset, resiliency, and strategy? Because it is, as a woman myself, and all the changes that I've gone through so far in life, there's always a journey that we seem to be on and adapting. So what was it that brought you here?
Okay. Right. Well, I mean, even from a young age, I guess my journey into wanting to support other people to make the right choices for them and be who they are without judgment started at a very young age. I literally remember sitting in my parents' lounge, and there must have been something that was judgmental or something. I just thought everybody should be able to be who they are. So I remember that really, really clearly. So my path followed, a caring role. I went into social care, studied social work. And it was in 2008. My mum was really ill at the time, and I was reading an article in a magazine. I mean, I loved my work, but I felt like I wanted to be more therapeutically involved rather than, gatekeeping and signposting. And I read an article about life coaching. I had never heard about it before, and I just knew that that was my next step on that path. So I did both the social work and the life coaching for a long time, helping people to feel confident, to make the right choices for themselves. However, I was living in really low self-worth and experiencing self-doubt and anxiety, depression, all of those things, and always looking for validation outside of myself. I was a really chronic people pleaser. And I know we all do things to please people sometimes, but to an extent where I wasn't showing up as me, and I wasn't actually living my own life. So, to take it back in 2002, to give you an example, I was in Turks and Caicos, lovely Caribbean island, getting married, which you might say, oh, that sounds amazing. I was marrying my husband for the second time.
Okay.
So it could have been, oh, this is a really romantic story, or are you making a huge mistake? And I think I knew pretty quickly that I was now just something this person wanted and invisible in my own life. And I don't say that from a place of blaming someone else, because it was about my journey. And I was making the choices, and this might really resonate with some of your watchers, listeners, making choices that would please other people, making choices that were based on other people's expectations, and not choosing myself. And also, I mean, have still a huge value on family. And so I wanted, we had a little girl. I wanted my family to be together. And I was ignoring then all the signs that were there. So, to move on quickly, we had a really good life. We both had our careers and separate businesses, beautiful home, cars, holidays, all of those things. But I was really unhappy inside. And I think that, might resonate with people too, that
Absolutely.
even perfectionism, so, I was hiding what was really going on, and it all looked wonderful to other people. And what things look like on the outside isn't necessarily what you're experiencing yourself in your
Absolutely.
life,
Absolutely.
Yeah. But again, I was ignoring all of that. Sadly, in 2012, my sister passed away. She didn't feel like she could make changes in her life. She'd really struggled with coping with her emotions and things. And obviously a really devastating time, but also a huge wake-up call for me that I was ignoring all the signs that the universe was showing me that things weren't right. I was shutting myself down. I developed fibromyalgia, and the body keeps score. So
Yeah,
all of
absolutely.
these things were signs. And so, I had to make a change. It started with one time I had a caravan by the beach, and I literally said to the universe, oh my goodness, how can I change this? I just seem to be in this repeat pattern. I need help with my own journey. I need some business support to really show up in my business in an aligned way. And as would happen, this program showed up, and it was holistic life coaching. So it was adding an extra level to the work I was already doing. I'd already studied the life coaching, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy. I had so many modalities that I was bringing in, and my clients were getting great results. I just was ignoring myself. So this course showed up. It was a big investment for me, and it was coaching to another level. It was business support, and it was just everything literally that I'd asked for. What I didn't know it was going to be was the first step on a huge spiritual journey for me, and personal journey. And so that really helped me get to a point where I knew I needed to make massive changes in my life, and started to really connect with who I was and show up as me, and know that I was in control of those changes. So that was massive. And there's nothing special about that. Lots of people make huge changes in their life, and face challenges, but you can get really caught up in the not wanting to upset other people, especially if you're a chronic people pleaser. You don't want to upset other people. They come first. And you have to get to a point where it's nearly so painful that there's no choice but to make a change. So I did, and I literally have changed my relationships, my level of self-worth, just all areas of my life. It's an ongoing journey. I'm not saying that I have suddenly transformed into this perfect version in all areas of life. It's a journey, but I suppose what brings it together in relation to both life and business is that I've been able to collate my journey into a way of helping other people navigate challenges and change in their life, both for navigating emotions, which, as I say, is really important, because my sister couldn't manage with her emotions, and she turned to different addictions, which people do. It might be shopping, it might be alcohol, it could be all sorts of things. that are a distraction, a coping mechanism, or whatever. So she had an addiction, and as I sadly passed away in 2012. So helping people to navigate their emotions is huge for me,
Mm-hmm.
and to believe in themselves. And so through the tools and techniques that I use, then I can help people with the mindset piece, with the emotional resilience, and with an actual pathway to navigate change
Mm-hmm.
and to sustain it. Because, there's lots of work we can do about mindset and emotional well-being, but how do we sustain that? How do we keep that path moving forward? So that gives everything that I've been through purpose.
Uh-huh.
And just, I feel, expands the work that I'm able to do with other people from that lived experience,
Mm-hmm.
and mentorship along the way. I was going to say that that's the short version. That's probably quite
Oh, don't
long-winded.
worry, we like stories
Yeah.
on here. We like stories on here, honestly. There's two things that kind of stood out to me. Well, actually three, but we'll start with kind of the first two, and it's that idea that everything is just down to choices. And like the way you will work with people, I imagine it is almost help them navigate those choices and let them make the choices on their path. And what I find really, really interesting is there is so many people who are people pleasers or are living a life that they think they should be living, whether it's family pressure, whether it's societal pressure. But I think the minute that you decide to be a business owner, entrepreneur, self-employed, however box you like to, whatever name you like to sit with, you're making a decision to change the norm and make that choice. And what really stood out to me in what you're saying was this idea of an ongoing journey, because I think we hear people having success with manifestation and visualization and working
Mhm.
in self-development and all the, like you say, there's lots of different tools and strategies that you can work with, and lots of people will do different things, but it's never one and done.
Mhm.
It is an ongoing journey every single day. You can't, I like to journal in the morning and things like that, but I can't just do it today and expect things to change by tomorrow. And likewise, I can't just do it once and think, oh, that's it, I've done that now, I've ticked that box,
Yes.
life is going to be great now. So if somebody was saying, if somebody comes to you and says, how can I do these things, what are small changes, how do you kind of adapt to them, to the understanding that it's an ongoing process? Like, you are an expert in it, but you still do those things on a daily basis, because it's really important, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because you can make big changes, and part of the work is having a really clear vision of what it is you want to achieve, because so many women especially don't know what they want themselves, because they're looking after everyone else. So actually knowing what it is that's important to you and what you want your life to look like lets you know what to say yes and no to, what decisions are the right decisions for you.
Uh-huh.
And that's really linked to your values as well, what's important to you. Or the values that you're choosing. So for example, when I talked there about the value of family, actually got me to go back into a marriage that didn't serve me, because I was putting that value above the value of my worth. And so that's a really important piece of work to do as well. It can go so deep. Yeah, really connecting to what is important to you and what you want your life to look like lets you say no to things that don't align, because we can easily be pulled into other people's agendas. And if you haven't looked at what's important to you, then how are you going to know what's right or wrong?
Exactly. And it's just like you said, it's like it's so important that you know your why and your vision and your values in business and in life. Like, people think when you say those things, they sound really businessy, that it's your mission, vision, and values, it's business foundations. But actually, it's really important in life, and really important, especially when you're an entrepreneur or solo business owner, because your business is your life in an essence, as in, to show up authentically, to be who you want to be, you really need to know who you are and the reasons that you're doing it. And so often I've spoke on here about that, but it's not just as simple as, well, I had two young children. Well, there's still two young children, but when I launched the business, it wasn't working for me anymore being in my career. It wasn't going to work with two kids under two. So I launched my business. So they're a huge part of my why.
Yeah.
But I need to go deeper than that, because they're not the reason I do a podcast. They're not the reason I work on strategy within small business owners' businesses. They're not the reason. They're part of the reason that I started the business. They're part of my driving force, but they're not like, why do I do this? Why do I do the podcast? Why do I show up in this certain way? It needs to be deeper than that. And so often as women, I think we do that. We're like, well, it's for our kids. Well, of course it's for your kids. Of course it's for your fam. And if family is one of your great values, like you went back into a marriage that wasn't serving you because you thought that's what was to be done for you to look after, for you to show up as mum, wife, carer, that's what you had to do. But you have to be really, really true to yourself to be brave enough to say that family is an important value to me, but here's what my family could look like. It doesn't need to look like what next door's looks like. And I think it's super brave when people do step out of that norm. And it's knowing that success can look very different for lots of people. Like you said, if somebody hears a wedding in Turks and Caicos, big house, nice cars, 2 businesses, all that life, they'll think, why wasn't she happy? Because, but that's surface. That is surface level, and success can look like many things to me. I'm absolutely driven by money, but I wouldn't allow money to overtake the fact that I want to pick my kids up from school. Everything can live together. You just need to decide what it is. So what do you see your biggest struggles with the women that come to you? What's the biggest thing that you see that them struggling with, or the common themes?
Well, belief in themselves and trust in their ability to deal with anything that comes their way is a huge one. So there's a few different. So I may have, with professional women, it tends to be stress and burnout, and that trying to please everybody else. Or this is how it presents initially when they come, and feeling like they're going to have to maybe leave their job. Maybe they've got physical health things showing up. For business women that come to me, it's about fear of visibility and confidence and can I do this? When you start to dig underneath it, it comes back to your belief in yourself, being connected to how resourceful you are, and the courage to keep, to show up. And that's been huge for me as well, because when I left my marriage, I just sort of walked away from everything that wasn't aligned with me, and people were like, what are you doing? But I had to get back in touch with me and create something that was really aligned for me. And at times that looked like I had just created chaos in my life, but actually I was stronger and more centered. Just how it looked to other people looked like chaos. So now I'm going off on a tangent, but the self-worth piece is huge. And we, just based on what you were saying there, we can feel selfish choosing ourselves, but actually how much more empowering for ourselves and others is it, especially our kids, if we show them that they can choose themselves, to make the choices that are right for them, and to show up from a full cup. I was a really shut down person, trying to always navigate what was coming my way. And I actually taught my kids to ignore that gut instinct that something wasn't right and shouldn't be tolerated. And I actually taught them to shut that down and tolerate bad behaviour and to accommodate other people. That's not my intention, wasn't my intention at the time. But, I thought I was protecting them, but that's what I did. So now I'm showing whoever needs to see it that you can make the choices that are right for you. And when you really connect to yourself and what's important to you and create the life with that meaning, the passion, the purpose, you are then connecting with your kids, your family, your clients, whoever it is, from that great energy. Yes, my clients were getting great results, but my energy couldn't have been as expansive, as it is now. And even when challenging times come up, I go, right, okay, what is this showing me? Is this showing me something that I need to change, or is it helping me develop courage? There was I can't think of the name of the movie at the minute, but there's a brilliant line in it where it says, if you ask for courage and that can be God, the universe, whatever you believe, that doesn't actually matter. If you ask for courage, you don't get a gift of courage. You get a situation that enables you to develop your courage and step into your courage. And so that's how I view a lot of the challenges that I've had to face as I've changed my life. Like, okay, what is this showing me and teaching me? And what have I actually got within me that I need to connect to?
And is it the self-worth? Because I thought I had my kids slightly later, and then, as I say, they're still really young now. And when I started the business, and I thought that I had a really successful career. So I was like, this is going to be no problem. I'm going to be able to show up for everybody. I'll be able to juggle everything. I've got great self-worth. I'm a completely independent, confident woman. This is all really good. And then it's something, and this is going to go as base as you can go. But literally, there was a day that I needed a wee. And I was like, I'll just do this, and I'll just do this, and I'll just do this. And I was doing all these other jobs. And then somebody just stopped me and said, you do realize that your self-worth is telling you that you aren't even worth stopping to go to the toilet when you need the toilet. And I was like, I was literally speechless, because there was no comeback from me.
Yeah.
There was no, but it was literally like, and it's like, and what would that, like you said, what would that teach my kids? That mummy isn't even worth everyone just stopping for a moment to let her do a basic
Yeah.
human necessity.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'll get that. They need a drink. I'll just do this, and I'll just do that, and I'll go in a minute. You said you needed a wee. I'll go in a minute. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I thought I was quite good at not putting myself at the bottom of the pile, but I was literally stopping myself of a basic human need.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, I need to become more aware of this. I need to be aware of what I am doing. And as much as I know I'm so like this, not I'm the primary carer. I know I'm the primary carer. I've chosen that role because I want it, but that doesn't mean I sacrifice my basic human needs and
Yeah.
what I need. And then it started me thinking, well, what else do I need? I need to go to the toilet when I need a toilet, tick. But what else? What
Yeah.
else can that look like? What night do I want to have to myself? Because ultimately, when I spoke to my partner, he was just like, just tell me what you need and we'll work at
Yeah.
it. And then I said, well, I'd like a night where I just have a self-care night. He's like, done. We'll book it in like about, and I know that got the kids. If the kids wake up, I'm, done. And I'm like, it really is that simple. Just having a communication. I'm
Yeah.
struggling with this. I need help with this. Whereas you think you need to carry it all. But that stopped me in my tracks. And that was somebody who thought they were really good at putting themselves at the top,
Yeah.
independent, and we think we can do it all alone, and we
Yeah.
can't. And we shouldn't have to.
No.
And there's no reason for us to try and do that. So when somebody comes and works with you, what does it look like? If somebody's listened to this and think, oh, right, okay, I've heard about life coaching. This sounds like something I really, really need. I'm burnt out, or I'm a woman. I want to get back into working. I want to find out about myself. My kids are now older, and yes, I've absolutely lost myself. But what does it look like to work with you?
Well, it's a very safe space, because there's literally nothing that you can come to me with that's a shock or anything else. But yeah, it's really, we would start with navigating your emotions, because often, people their nervous system's a bit frazzled or whatever, and just actually learning some tools to navigate that so you can get really nice and grounded. And I mean, you mentioned awareness there, self-awareness. The patterns that we're in are often outside of our awareness, unless somebody goes, have you noticed?
Yeah.
Yeah, and communication that you mentioned there too, carrying it all whenever all you actually had to do was communicate that. So yeah, we navigate emotions first, regulate emotions, and we actually look at what the patterns are that are showing up for you in your life. And we do, when I'm working one-on-one with clients, we do the deeper healing work, the patterns and conditioning that's in there from childhood. So we do that deeper level work, letting go of those limiting beliefs and blocks that are there that can really get in our way and hold, like a bungee cord. When you try to move forward, they keep pulling you back. And a lot of that can be, people don't want to sometimes talk about stuff in their life. It can actually be very content free.
Mm-hmm.
We're I guide you on a journey, and you do the work, and you don't have to actually talk about difficult things in your life or go there, and reconnect to all that emotion. But whenever, when you clear the way, because, if you don't have that open mindset, you close yourself off to so many opportunities and possibilities. When that opportunity comes up that you thought you would really like, you might go, oh no, I can't do it. It's not for me. You're in this identity of I'm not good enough, or I'm not that type of person. So we really connect to how amazingly resourceful you are. We're so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And we shift that identity into this really capable person that, got so much to bring. And yeah, from that place, then you can create the vision for what you want to create from a more aligned place. So rather than trying to create a vision from a place where all your doubts and fears are coming up, you're then doing it from a place where actually, okay, I have this capability and I have all these resources available to me as well that I maybe was ignoring. And that's where, when you create that vision from that aligned place, then when those shiny object things show up or other people's agendas, you can say, no, thanks, that doesn't actually align with me. And you can say that with confidence and not feel so pulled as we tend to do. And then a really important piece of the work is, as you had mentioned a wee bit earlier, is creating the daily practices and habits in your life that help you to stay connected to your own resources and to sustain the change that you're making, so that you don't fall back into old patterns of being. And I do too. Even still, something will come up for me and I'll go, wow, well, that's an old pattern where I used to want to avoid situations, or so yeah, self-awareness is a massive one. And those daily habits that really help you start the day. So one of the things that I do with clients that is huge, and a lot of people say, oh, I don't have time, is the morning routine. Setting yourself up for the day so that you feel nice and grounded and empowered, and you're observing what's happening in your life and you're making the right choices and responding rather than getting caught up in other people's drama and the emotion of things and reacting. And so yeah, a daily practice is absolutely huge. And clients of mine will do it and they'll feel a huge difference in how they feel, how they experience their everyday life. And then when things start to feel a bit better, they might let it go because, they're feeling okay. And then they'll come to me and they'll go, oh my goodness, the difference, not doing it made me realize how important this is in my life. And it's about taking self-responsibility for how you want to show up, because, we can blame whoever we want, but at the end of the day, as you've said, we're making the decisions, and even not doing something is a decision. And then, we literally take that as a strategy to look at every area of your life. We look at money, relationships, platonic or our love relationships, career, health and well-being, so that, I use the term a fully prosperous life. But fully prosperous life to me is good in all areas of life, that you're looking at all of it, as a holistic piece. Rather than, just focus on, say, on your business and then your relationships suffering, or the time with your children, or your health. So we look at all of it from the vision that you have for what you want your life to look at. And when you talked earlier about, money being an important thing for you, so many people just don't want to go there and they feel guilty about money. But a mentor of mine said, money may not buy you happiness, but being poor buys you absolutely nothing. When we create wealth in our lives, we have so many more experiences for ourselves and our families, and we are greater equipped to show up and help other people. And I know for me, being able to share and help my kids, and also teach other people how to align energetically to be a person that can receive large sums of money, and what that can bring them in their life is huge.
But I think it's that, I think when you said to have a toolbox, because I think so many people, like we said earlier, it's never one and done, you know, it is a journey. And I
Yeah.
think that morning routine, and I think people can roll their eyes and be like, oh, she's going to tell me that I need to get up at 5 and I need to
No.
film at the
No.
moon and do 5 press ups and drink some weird drink before my kids even wake up. And it's not about that. And if you want to do all of those things, then
Absolutely.
absolutely go and do all of those
Yeah.
things. But it is about, you know, I have 2 kids that are now 2 under 4, and my mornings can be anything apart from serene. But I make sure there's still those little elements of my morning that set me up for the day,
Yeah.
because if they're not, you know, it's that thing of I make sure I'm in the shower at 6 so that I can then be ready for whatever happens. And if the nursery runs late or something happens, it's fine because I'm ready to face
Yeah.
the day. Whereas there was a point where I was like, I'll quickly go to the nursery run, then I'll come back and have my shower, and everything was just a
Yeah.
bit off. It just, you know,
Yeah.
it was just, I was never, I always felt like I was trying to catch up with my day
Yeah.
then. Whereas when you start those preparations, and I do have a certain coffee that I drink in the morning, and I make sure that happens. And there was also that learning of me that I run my own business, but I was at a point like forcing myself, like, all right, it's that time, right? You need to be at your desk at 9. You need to be, why? Who did I need to
Yeah.
be at
It's
my
your
desk at
business.
9 for? It's my business. I on purpose don't let people book early calls with me. So why do I need to be sat at my desk at 9 o'clock? And if I couldn't work out at 6, if the kids had woke up extra early that day, I was then like, oh, that's it, I can't work out today. Whereas, no, you could take them to nursery and work out at 8:30 when you get back.
Yeah.
Who's stopping you?
Yeah.
But that then gave me the energy and the resilience to show up for the rest of the day. And
Yeah.
it might some mornings be really, really hard, but it makes the rest of the day so much
Absolutely.
easier. And it's having those tools and realizing, and yes, just like your clients say, you fall off the wagon and you forget, you're like, oh, it's not that big a deal. You stop for a week and you're like, oh my goodness, that is like the biggest deal of my life and I need to go back and do that. And you think it is so simple. Like you think it's, but it's, and if it is journaling in the morning, or if it is 10 minutes quiet time, and people hear the words meditation and think that you have to sit in a room with a, you know, a shrine and, you know, your way through it. And
Yeah.
it's not. Meditation can literally be getting into the garden with a cup of coffee and
Absolutely.
listening to the birds for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be heavy. It can
Yeah.
be easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't want it to be, I'm very aware of that with clients. You don't want it to feel like another thing that they have to do.
Yes.
Because that's where people are like, I don't have time. But actually, these practices, just like you've described, allow you to be present rather than that frazzled, oh, hurry up, and you know, and I have to do this and I have to do that. It's actually, I'm ready and I get to have
I get
breakfast
it.
with my kids and I get to take them to nursery and I get to do, and even that I get to is such an energetic shift from I have to do, and it feels like a pressure to I get to do this. And that's, when you start to drill into it a wee bit more, some of the work that I do with clients, just in that being able to be present in every moment and their life and tune into the things that matter and allow you to enjoy your experience rather than always having to do the next thing and never really being present. So you're always waiting for a time that you can be happy or do whatever rather than tuning into it in the moment. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I love that. It's so important. And yes, there are so many modalities that are available. And I don't say, oh, you have to do this, it has to be meditation, or different people like different things because some people feel that meditation isn't for them because they like to be more active. So there's different things that we can align with for the individual of what works for them in their life and really serves them achieving what they want to achieve. But yeah, no, I love that. And I have my coffee in the morning. I wake up really early, but I don't get up really early. But I have my coffee before I start. And as you said, you're running your own business, so you get to choose what it looks like. I love that my business allows me to have flexibility. And so, there's things I've got to prioritize and not get sidetracked from, but I can shimmy things about and I can put in my self-care practice. And I can have a day that, I can go for coffee or do whatever it happens to be and change. My kids are adults and grown up, so I don't have to, think of all those things. So that obviously gives me a bit more flexibility too. But actually just thinking about, well, what do I want my life to look like? What matters to me? And I'm in control of that. And taking self-responsibility is huge and life-changing in itself, without even doing the deeper work on the things that might be,
But I
too
think people
popular.
need to understand that you're constantly making that choice. You're constantly making that decision on a daily basis, every single day. This is the life that I'm choosing, because you can so easily, and I did it, start a business and replace your really busy job, your really busy career with a really busy business and just an even busier job. So you just have to decide, like, this is what's important. Here's why it's important. And if you do have, and there's lots of the different phases of your business and of life too, there'll be a time where you are working more than you want to, but it's for an end, it's for that vision. And you know that this today, me working really hard today, or not really hard, but longer hours than I want to,
Yes.
will mean that I will have more time with my family when I need to, when it's there, when it's available, and that flexibility. Because I don't really buy into like the freedom business model that much, but I do buy into choice, and choice is a freedom. Choice and flexibility is a freedom that you get to
Yes.
have, but you have to make really hard decisions every day for that to happen. And like you say, prioritize whatever the priority is, whether it's making sure you have a coffee in the morning or making sure you bring in that big contract. Those are both of equal importance, because it's
Yeah.
all about keeping you in that state of flow and that happiness, and you said earlier about when opportunity comes, when you're in that place of abundance, you can say, I can do that. There's that opportunity. I deserve
Yeah.
it and I can take it. Whereas if there's something off, if you're in that place of lack, if everything's negative and is rubbish and you're overwhelmed and burnt out, that opportunity will present itself and you won't even know that it's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you're going to make a decision from fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
So I could literally talk about it forever.
Yeah.
It's so important. So as you know, I ask all guests 3 questions to prepare before they come on, all
Yeah.
around the joy in their life. So the first one is the joy spotlight, a favourite thing that has shaped your life, business or work.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, prepared these for you a while ago. I remember thinking about them. And so one of the things that when you talked about the joy, and I know I asked you could I have more than one, was 5 years ago when I had started that personal journey. As I say, I had always been really closed down. I was walking up the road and I just felt really happy. And it was so alien to me. And I was like, I feel really happy. Why do I feel really happy? And just for seemingly no reason. And it was just such a lovely thing that I was on this journey where I could actually just tap into that happiness and that joy, because I had been a really self-conscious person, always worried about other people's opinions, and actually, I could choose that joy. I'd made such a shift. So that is huge. I'd fed into that control narrative of what I had to do and other people's control. But this my own journey, just this happiness literally showed me that I'm the joy. It's within me and I can connect to that at any time. It also let me see that when things weren't aligned with that they weren't for me, which was huge as well. So yes, second thing then was gratitude practice. So we've talked about some tools and techniques and practices there. I practice gratitude every morning. Literally, when I wake up, open my eyes, I wiggle my toes. It's now like an anchor for me. So I literally wake up and I say, I'm really grateful that I can wiggle my toes. And it just makes me feel happy right away. And, I stretch and then, I feed into gratitude for lots of other things. But that is I wake up and I wiggle my toes and it just immediately shifts me into that. Gratitude is such an amazing state to be in, because it actually brings attention to more things that we're grateful for and attracts them to us. So yeah, wiggling my toes in the morning and feeling happy for no reason.
But I think when we do this work, when you start to be aware of it, when you start to realize that this toolbox you want to create of this, I think we wait for that. Or if indeed we're trying to change our lives and start our own businesses, I think we wait for the big moment. the big success moment, that big moment where you think, oh, that's it, I've now made it, I can now be happy. But actually, it's like you say, it's those moments. It's about how you feel in those moments. It's not like sometimes if you have dreamt of on your vision board the big house and you get the keys
Yeah.
to the big house, that's it's a real kind of hallmark of the moment.
Yeah.
But it's not the house, it's
What it brings you.
what it brings you, how you
Yeah.
feel, what you've
Yeah.
done to get there, that sense of achievement, that sense of I've changed my life and this is how it looks. And I think people are waiting for those big moments when actually it can be as simple, like says walking down the street and feeling, I feel happy, I feel content, I feel secure. And once you feel those things, you're just like, this is it. This
Mm-hmm.
is this is what I have been waiting for. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with dollar signs. It comes with a feeling, and that kind of really stood out to me when you wrote your thingies. And I think it's a lot to do with gratitude. It's like you saying you wiggle on their toes, and there's two other people I can think of. There's one person who says when she brushes her hair in the morning, she's like, I'm so lucky to be able to brush my hair. I love my brush. I love my hair. And like when she does it, you're like, this is almost ridiculous. But
Yeah.
those are the things that you have to be grateful for. And this other person I'm talking about says that when she's having a really bad day, she goes into her kitchen. She says, because your kitchen is such a place where you can feed your family, feed yourself. It's got food that you've bought. It's got utensils that you've bought to be able to cook your food. She says, and I open my cutlery drawer and I'm like, I'm so lucky to have all of these. I'm so lucky. She's like, and there's days you just want to tell the world to do one in want of a better words. And she's like, I'm so lucky that I get to feed my family with these forks. She says, and I can see it through gritted teeth. But by the end of it, I'm laughing. And I've
Yeah.
reminded myself of that I have a roof over my head and I can look
Yeah.
after my family and
Absolutely.
that's all that you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the same way, my favourite thing is a full fridge. I
Yeah.
love when I go shopping and I've got a full fridge because I'm like, anything can happen today, but
Yeah.
everyone will be fed. And to
Yeah.
me, that's okay. That's that. So it is. And I think it's really important to have that awareness and that. So when I was reading your answers, those are the things that immediately come into my head.
Yeah.
So the second one is inspired by joy, either a book or a mentor that has changed something for you.
Okay. So, I mean, there are people that I follow that, I find really inspirational, but I actually am mostly inspired by everyday people and the changes they make in their life and how they show up for themselves and other people through challenges. Yeah, everyday real people it's just humbling. Sometimes, to see what people come through and the resilience they have and how no matter what's going on in their own life, they, still can show up with a kind heart. And so, yeah, I'm very inspired by real people and their journeys. I don't really follow celebrities. There are some like coaches and mentors out there whose message I really align with. But I've never, even like as a teenager with pop stars and all, I never really followed anyone in particular. I'm much more inspired by real people. So yeah, real people's journeys.
Yeah, that is
I just love
for
it.
me. I don't have like a celebrity or somebody you would say that everyone would be like, that is definitely a thing. I definitely think for me, it has been real stories, real people, somebody that I can see, even if it's somebody now who has now gone on a fantastic journey and may be
Yeah,
famous in their own right for what they do, but it's somebody that I can look and think, well, you've walked the path and
yeah,
that is amazing you do. Stories, it's much more for me to be like a book or something that stood out for me, or if something's going to change me, it's going to be a real person that's gone through something.
yeah,
They might get famous for that thing, but gone through something, or a book that I've read that then kind of stays with me. And sometimes it can be a quote from a book that stays
yeah,
with me. I recently read a fictional book, and it's actually the fictional book's got nothing to do with how this quote made me feel, but this character, one of its phrases was whatever was going on in their life with their friends, with their family, with other things, it was like, what's wrong with now? And people would say, oh, but I've got this illness and this is going to limit my life. And they'd be like, okay, but what's wrong with now? what's wrong with today? And that like it kept coming up in the book, and it just kept stopping me in my tracks because I was like, what is wrong with now? If life stayed today, it's not bad. It's all right, So yeah, it's things like that that really, really
Absolutely,
stay with
absolutely. And there is
me.
only now, and how can you make now the best now that it can be?
Because that's all you've got. Yesterday's gone. You don't know what's going to happen. You literally don't know what's going to happen in the next half an hour. I've got an idea. I've got my to-do list. I've got my schedule. I've got the things
Absolutely.
that should be happening. But
Yeah.
ultimately, a knock at the door, a phone call, everything can change.
Yeah.
So all you have is this moment, and and to be happy and content, and that is pretty special. And the last one is the joy killer, the thing that you would remove from the world if you can.
Okay. Well, I know the first one that I shared with you was people blowing their noses in restaurants. Oh my goodness.
I think
Like,
people blowing their noses in general in public, and I know people have to, and I know that like if somebody's got a cold or anything, I'd much rather they had a hanky there to do
yeah.
and do what they need to do. But in restaurants,
I know. When you're eating
just
food and
what
then you hear that big, and I'm a very visual person, so I definitely don't like it.
and then the worst is like I like that old men carry hankies to take care of these situations, but they do it and then they just scrunch it up and put it back in their pocket.
Carry your snot, carry your snot.
Yeah, and then they'll just take it out later and do the same again. And as I said to
Oh
you when
dear.
we spoke to begin with at this podcast, my partner literally says to me, "Stop." If somebody does it, he's like, "Please don't say anything," just because I have a tendency to go, there's a bathroom you could do that in.
I know, I know. You know, I actually was on a date with someone recently and they blew their nose at lunch.
Like,
And I was
thanks, it
like,
was really nice to meet you. See you later.
so yes, that's one of my absolutely pet hate. I hate that. And then the other thing that I would get rid of would be self-doubt. Because if we're actually really tuned in to our true essence and all that we're capable of, and trust that actually everything's for us, because it's either to support us on our journey or to show us something we need to learn, we can let go of self-doubt and just move into trust. So I definitely would banish self-doubt.
Definitely. And I think people misunderstand self-doubt and how they think it's much more obvious than it actually is, and where it lurks and what it
Yeah.
stops you doing, and where it can kind of manifest itself in your life. I think people really underestimate the impact that it can have. And
Absolutely.
I've definitely, as I say, I think I'm a pretty confident person, but there has been some, especially since starting my business, in some moments where I'm like, whew, wow, did not
Absolutely.
expect that to come up today, So I think it's really, really important that it's that awareness again, that people are aware and create a toolbox to deal with
Yeah.
those
And I
moments.
think it's really important that everybody knows, no matter where anyone is on their journey or how successful they are, it comes up. And as you move to different levels, and expand, it comes back up. Everybody's on that journey, but it's what you do with it. It's empowering yourself to be able to have that trust and keep moving
What's
through.
that thing? I think if you have a fear of public speaking, you'll always have a fear of public speaking. You then just have a toolbox to be able to do it, to be able to, your vision, your why becomes stronger. You practice it, you have strategy in it, and all of a sudden you can do it, but it will never go away. It's not like, well, I did it in front of one person, then 10, then 50, then 1,000. You'll feel just as nervous with that 1,000 as you did with that one. And it's just, you just learn systems, strategies, tools,
But
to
look where
build
the
that.
journey you've went on from 1 to
Yeah,
1,000, and you can shift that nervousness into excitement and connect to the purpose of what you're doing rather than the fear.
absolutely. Absolutely. So if people want to come and find you, work with you, join your world, see you, where should they come?
Okay. Well, my business is Joe Rose Conscious Change. On most Facebook and Instagram, that is my handle, Joe Rose Conscious Change. And on LinkedIn, it's just Joe Rose. And the website as well is Joe Rose Conscious Change. Yeah, just send me a message. The email again is info@joeroseconsciouschange.co.uk. Keeping it the same, it keeps it simple. I am bringing the Empower Change method into an online program that's going to be so much more accessible to people. So I'm opening a wait list for that. So yeah, if anybody wants to hop on a call and talk about how coaching might fit for them, see if we're a fit to work together, and if working with me would provide the path and the outcome that they want, I would love to do that.
All the links will be in the show notes, so if you want to go and connect with Jo, just drop down to the show notes and all the links will be there, simply to click and go and meet. Before you go, I do ask one final question of everybody, and that is, what joy legacy would you like to leave behind? Either what you would like to be known for or what you'd like to leave in the world.
I would just like to be part of helping people to really connect to themselves, to have love and acceptance in the world. I think if we brought more curiosity to life rather than judgment or closing things off or just saying, oh, no, I don't believe in that or whatever, if we allowed ourselves to be more curious, accepting of other people's viewpoints, and having love for ourselves and others that's unconditional, the world would be a much better place.
Absolutely.
So if I can play a very small part in people making those shifts and show up as that myself, then yeah, that's a good thing.
Well, I think curiosity is really important, and more people need to lead with curiosity before anything else.
Yeah.
Like, they could learn a lot. I think that's a lovely place for us to finish it. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jo.
Yeah, been so lovely to chat. Thank you.
Wasn't that just the kind of conversation that makes you exhale and go, okay, I'm not alone. I can do this. I can go through my own journey. I hope you got as much from it as I did. It's truly one that I really enjoyed speaking to Jo and finding the calm and the wisdom from her. Jo's reflections are such a powerful reminder that the journey inward is often the key to moving forward. And as always, I'd love to leave you with my 3 top takeaways from today's episode. Number 1, that curiosity is your superpower. When things feel stuck, overwhelming, or uncertain, ask questions. Ask questions of yourself, ask questions of those around you. Get curious about your reactions, your habits, and your desires. Jo reminded us that curiosity can soften resistance and unlock growth. Without judgment, take away the fear. And I love the idea that if you stay curious, that the world around you grows. And I hope to have more curiosity in my life. Number 2, that your daily practices matter more than you think. It's not the big dramatic actions that create lasting change. It's the tiny, consistent rituals. Whether it's journaling, walking, or simply asking yourself, what do I need today? Your practices anchor you in your truth. And we all hear about the 1%, and we all hear about consistency. But it doesn't need to be big. It can be just that small change that you make that suddenly compounds to the great success that you're looking for. And number 3, you are allowed to choose again. Life changes, you evolve, your business shifts, and you are allowed, even encouraged, to make new choices that better honour who you are now. Don't wait for permission. Give it to yourself. And I hope I continue to change. I hope my business continues to change. I hope the relationships I have continue to change. Because I hope I stay curious. Is that where it all comes from? I hope you really enjoyed this episode. And if it did give you that warm, fuzzy feeling, or a good reality check, or perhaps something that you're now going to go away and think about and make some changes in your life, I'd love for you to take 30 seconds to like and follow or leave a review. It really does help us find new people and lets me know that we're getting these podcast episodes right. And if you feel that there's someone who needs to hear it, then please share. Please let them hear Jo's story and how it may be able to help them. Until next time, keep doing the joy work. And remember, the most powerful thing you can be in business is yourself. I'll see you soon.